you, me, we've been on this world for a while. And I don't know about you, but every day I see birds, every day I hear birds. And more specifically, if you're from Southeast Asia, you would have heard, and now I'm gonna make a fool out of myself, this little bird go, ooh, ooh. And you might be thinking, what on earth is going on, specifically during summer months? And you might be thinking, oh, these birds are hella annoying. What if I told you these birds can be more grander, these birds can be louder, these birds can be showier? Yeah. So today I'm going to talk about the birds of paradise. I know I just made a fool out of myself, but we move on. So anyways, birds of paradise. I really like them. They've like since I was a kid, I've always watched documentaries about them, and they've always just kind of sat at the back of my head because I loved how they were just like so diverse. And you know what? And I thought for this week, why not go back into the past and have a look at birds of paradise? Why not? So here we go. So birds of paradise, very very diverse family. They're seen in Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, and Australia. Now, now, I also was too taken aback by the fact that they were also found in Australia. Like birds of paradise in Australia? What? You're kidding. You're joking. But no, I'm not. Yeah, it's a bit weird to wrap my head around. So, the birds of paradise are in the family of hold on, Paradisidae. I'm pretty sure I butchered that, but you know. And they're in the order of Passeriformes. So I think it goes kingdom, phylum, order, family, genus, species. So it's Paradisidae in the Passeriformes. So Passeriformes is a bigger group. Inside that group of Passeriformes, there's a Paradisidae. So yeah. Um and Passeriformes is like the same order, same group as crows, blue jays, ravens. So yeah, birds of paradise are related to crows and ravens. Even though like from um a simple like yeah, even though from like a wider point of view you would think that they're not really related cuz birds of paradise you usually associate that with like colorful plumage and whatever, and then crows and ravens they're all black. So, yeah, but I mean, you can see some resemblance, I think. I think you can see some morphological similarities. Yeah. So, overall, in Paradisidae, there's 42 species, 36 of which are endemic to New Guinea and its satellite islands. So, islands that are practically in Papua New Guinea, but, you know, it's kind of like an archipelago. Yeah. Um, so yeah, the islands of New Guinea. There's four species that occupy eastern Australia. So, for example, there's a paradise riflebird and a Victoria's riflebird. Um, and there's two species that occupy the Moluccan Islands in eastern Indonesia. So, overall, Paradisidae includes like a variety of different genuses. So there's sicklebills, parotias, astrapias, paradisiaes, and manucodes. And across these 42 species, there's such a great variation in plumage. Um, all of them, like most of them, are sexually dimorphic. So there's a difference in plumage and behavior. Oh, wait, no, and mostly plumage, not behavior, sorry. There's a large difference in the plumage of male and female individuals. So take, I think the hold on, let me think. I think it's the Rajiana's bird of paradise. No, it's just Rajiana, bird of paradise, where male is like decked out in all these feathers. I'm gonna try my best and describe it to you. Green, yellow and green head. Um, Technically yellow crest with the green cheek. Rest of the body is kind of like orangish. It's got these like orange, bright orange tail feathers. It just kind of dances around. I think they do it in groups. Yeah, they do it in groups. Just kind of dance around, um, trying to attract a mate. And yeah, that's probably the most elaborate. Well, not the most. Maybe the Greater Bird of Paradise is the most elaborate, but they're like um mating rituals are kind of similar. Anyways, males are often brightly colored than females. Exactly what I just said. So bright colors, courtship displays, and like the calls of a male bird of paradise are parts of like kind of determines the sexual selection of a mate. So essentially, it's a competition between um, male individuals, where some individuals win, others lose the right to mate. So essentially, if you dance really well, you're getting babies. You're passing down your genetics. If you don't dance well enough, you're not passing on your genes. Usually, most of the time, males who have the brightest plumage and the most elaborate displays, also the loudest calls, will have the right to mate. And yeah, they just use that colorful plumage, loud call, dancing moves to, be selected to mate. Whereas females are more duller colored. So I don't know if you've watched like documentaries of birds of paradise. There's always this the male that's dancing and then the female that's just observing on the side, attracted by like the male's calls. And so yeah, that's like the selection process. So females tend to be duller because they need to be more camouflaged. So, for example, if you're as brightly colored as a male and you're, roosting your eggs, you're incubating the eggs, obviously you're going to be more eye-catching to some predators. And so it would be more difficult. No, it'd be less likely to raise your young safely, if you were brightly colored like the males. And so the females are, duller colored to reduce the risk of predation, to like ensure that the young are able to grow and pass on the genes, essentially. But I know I'm like talking about how a lot of the males are so brightly colored and dancy and showy. Females are dull. That's not always the case. There are some species that are sexually dimorphic. Hold on. No, wait. Monomorphic. Yeah, sorry, monomorphic. So essentially, 9 of 42 species of Paradisidae are monomorphic. So that's where male and females are identical in appearance. So, for example, the Manicodes. The Manicodes essentially kind of do look like crows, except um, they are birds of paradise. They like dark blue in plumage, sometimes black. Yeah, the Manicodes. The Manicodes are sexually monomorphic. Male and females look exactly the same. There's no special plumage, there's no bright, flashy plumage, none of that. They look the same. So, these sexually monomorphic species form a lot of tight bonds. Um, they maybe mate for life. I don't think there's a lot of like instances or like records of that, but don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. And not only that, they will take turns taking care of the young. So it's quite sweet. That's quite nice. And so, yeah. Now I will talk to you about my favorite birds of paradise and some other species of birds. Before we go on to that, about the intro. Sorry I had to rattle you with a horrendous bird call. I just want to put it out there. That bird is absolutely not a bird of paradise. Hold on, let me. It's actually called the Asian koal. Um, it is related to cuckoos, the parasites they are. You know, they lay eggs into other birds' nests. Those babies are able to physically push the biological chicks out of the nest. And so the birds of, like, the parents of the biological birds kind of just focus on the cuckoo. Crazy work. I have to say I kind of hate cuckoos for that, but you know, I can't hate them for its adaptation. But anyways, Asian koalas, members of the cuckoo family, um, and they're very well known for their call. And it's like the koal, koal. Never doing that again, but you know, just said I wouldn't do it again. But yeah, they're very famous for their mating call. That's usually in summer, and you know, goes on throughout the day. And you would think it's annoying, but I think it's kind of therapeutic, not gonna lie. Yeah, it's quite nice. But this bird has nothing to do with birds of paradise. I'm not even sure why I brought it up in the intro, but they're quite nice. They are sexually dimorphic, where the male is actually like black, like the plumage is all black, and the female has like spotted plumage, which is a bit weird. You would think the male would be more flashy, but they aren't. They aren't. So now, after my explanation about what happened in the intro, I don't know. That was the best. I thought that was the best way I could start it, and I do still struggle with intros. Not gonna lie, not gonna lie. But anyways, now we're gonna talk about my favorite. That's right, my favorite, my favorite birds of paradise, and some other birds. Because I did used to think they were birds of paradise before I did my research. So I'm just going to include them because I think they're quite nice. I think they're quite unique. So, first of all, Western parotia. Parotia. I'm pretty sure it's parotia. So these are little guys. These are quite small. The males, I guess you could equate them to ballerinas, obviously. Obviously they aren't. But when they have their mating ritual, they look like they have tutus, and that's so cute. Anyways, these males, these male parotias, really like a nice performance platform. They really like a stage. They're that dramatic. So their stage would be like the forest floor. No, absolutely no leaves, no distractions, and there obviously has to be overhanging branches for the females to look. No leaves, no branches, overhanging, like audience seating. And this little guy will just puff out his feathers to make himself, to essentially look like he has a tutu and just kind of twirl and dance around. I think it's quite funny. And he has these little two, I don't know what you would call them. Like, they're feathers, but, there's just fiber at the end. And he just kind of tutu wiggles his head around. It's the funniest thing ever, and it's quite cute. Another is the ribbon-tailed astrapia. And honestly, I just like this bird because I think it's quite pretty. These are long, long tail feathers. I think they're even longer than the body of the bird, not gonna lie. They're quite long. They've got this branch. Yeah, like a mating, no, like a display site for birds of paradise is called a lek, Lek, where they essentially just kind of perform, and it's called a lek. This astrapia will just sit on there, call for a female, just kind of wait, and so morphologically speaking, it's got like a black body, white tails. Like these are like two tail feathers are really really long, and an iridescent head, which I think the Parotia also has. Um, yeah, it's quite eye catching. I love the birds of paradise. They're so unique. They're so cute. They're so flashy. I just can't. Um, Another favorite of mine is the 12-wired bird of paradise. And I like this guy because the males look a bit weird. Essentially, I think they've got what do they have? Yellow head, red head? They're yellow and red. Um, but with a bit of black. But the most weirdest thing I've ever seen is the tail feathers. They aren't really tail feathers. I know they are feathers, but they look like wires. They're feathers without the fibers. I don't. So there's 12 exactly on the rear end of this bird. And I think, not gonna lie, I think from my memory, these birds, the males on their legs will like call for a female. If a female comes, they'll dance their stuff. They will literally shake their 12 wires in front of the female and just kind of tickle the female with it. I'm pretty sure that happens, yeah. I think it's quite funny. Obviously it's like a mating ritual, it's sexual selection. And just shouldn't be funny because, it's nature taking its course, but I think it's quite funny. It's quite funny to watch. Um, another bird of paradise would be the superb bird of paradise. I think this was like recently found. Hold on, superb bird of paradise. Let's see, was it recently found? No, it wasn't recently found. I don't know where I got that from. Anyways, yeah, these are blackbirds majorly, but they do have like a speck of iridescent blue. No, it's not iridescent. Just like a really bright blue behind its eyes, and like a little patch of blue on its chest that looks like a mustache. And these birds are the ones during their mating rituals where they literally fluff up into a black oval with two fake blue eyes and a blue mustache at the middle. And I think it's so funny to watch them hop around on the lek in front of the female. It's just so funny to watch them do it. Obviously, as I said, shouldn't be laughing at it. It's just nature taking its course. I think it just looks funny. It looks ridiculous in the nicest way possible. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. I think it's quite funny. Um, and then their mouth is blue as well. Like when they open their beak, it's yellow on the inside. I think it's quite funny. You see them. You see a black oval with a mustache and a yellow mouth and blue eyes jumping around on the branch in front of a dull bird, the female. I think that's quite funny. Not gonna lie. I definitely need to like print out a poster of what birds of paradise in my room. It's quite funny. I love them so much. They're so funny. Um Now going on to the birds that I thought were birds of paradise. But actually they aren't. They aren't. They aren't. They really aren't. And this first one, I got kind of disappointed because I thought they were. Alright. So, mannequins. I think, yeah, there's a more specific name, but I really can't find it. I really can't, search my brain for it. I can't rack my brain around it. But mannequins are quite small, quite petite. They're really, really cute. They're so cute. And they also have sexual dimorphism. Yeah, sexual dimorphism. But the thing is, with their, like, mating rituals, the males do it in, like, a boy band-esque type thing. So, there's, like, a group of, usually, I think usually there would be, like, four mannequins, male mannequins, on a leg. And they dance. They all dance together. It's all synchronized. You know, one of them. Okay, so first of all, imagine five little teeny yellow and red birds on the branch. The one on the left jumps, flies over to the right. The birds on the branch shuffle over, and the bird in the air lands. And that just kind of repeats and repeats and repeats. And they call during, like, they sing during the thing. And it's so like, spectacular to watch. First of all, synchronized. Second of all, you're singing doing this. And third of all, how did you even, evolve to have this? It's kind of crazy. Anyways, but the thing is, you must be thinking, oh, what if the female accepts? And what happens? There's five of them. There's a ringleader. There's a ringleader in the like the boy band in their boy band. And yeah, so the female will mate with the ringleader in the boy band. The boy band leader, the main, I don't know, vocalist if you want. And I love the mannequins. They're quite cute. They're quite small. They're quite cute. Now, this other bird, so many people confuse them with um birds of paradise, and I did too. Because they're quite elaborate. They're quite fancy. They're quite flashy. I want to say. Oh wait, yeah, they're quite flashy. So, the satin bowerbird. Essentially, they're just like fully black plumage. But the thing is, the males are the elaborate ones. They're flashy in their mating ritual. So first of all, they will gather like these little twigs and make a little structure. I don't know how you would describe the structure. Hold on. Let me pull up a photo and try to describe it to you. Let's see. So, essentially, they kind of stick it in the ground. They essentially kind of weave it into the ground. These many twigs, they kind of weave it. So there's some twigs on one side, some twigs on the other side to make kind of like a corridor, a type of corridor. And what the male bowerbird will do is collect a lot of blue things. So I remember when I was younger, I would watch these documentaries about um, life in the tropics, and there would always be a segment on satin bowerbirds, and you would see like them collecting blue litter and placing it around said structure. And I thought, how do you even know how to do this? That's a bit crazy. It's a bit crazy. And obviously, um, they call for the female. The female comes. They kind of do this like weird peekaboo dance around the structure. It's kind of like a hide and seek thing, and it's quite mesmerizing, I think. Yeah. And then, if the female accepts, then bada bing, bada boom, they're getting checks. If not, then the female just leaves. Straight up leaves. But you can see some of the behavioral similarities between bowerbirds and birds of paradise. But bowerbirds are actually bowerbirds. Bowerbirds are actually like from a completely different family. Uh, I would try to pronounce that, but play Tilonoran Kaide. Tilonoran Kaide. There's a silent P like pterosaur, but don't take my pronunciation, for face value. But yeah, bowerbirds. I thought they were birds of paradise, but they aren't, even though they're quite similar. Completely different family though. And then my final notable mention is the lyrebird. So these are quite big, actually. I think, yeah, they're quite big. I think they're dull in color, but the thing is, they can mimic a lot of stuff. So I remember watching these documentaries again about these under life in the tropics, and sometimes there would be a section on lyrebirds. These lyrebirds essentially like mimic a lot of their surroundings. So with like urban growth, population growth, um and deforestation, a lot of these lyrebirds now mimic a lot of anthropogenic sounds. So, for example, there's some lyrebirds that mimic chainsaws, trucks moving, the reversing of trucks, like the beep, 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 that type of thing. Um, and there's a lot of mimicry of children playing. There's mimicry of dogs barking, even though where lyrebirds actually live, there are no native dogs. So yeah, I think that's quite interesting. Um, yeah, notable mention. I did think they were some part of the birds of paradise. I did think they were, just mainly because how loud they are, loud and eccentric with all their mimicry and stuff. But yeah, so essentially that's it for this week. Hope you learned something. Um, yeah, I hope I kind of just inspired you to learn more about birds of paradise, because I essentially just kind of scratched the surface. This is just like an intro. Literally just scratched the surface. But yeah, quite interesting, I think. Quite like them. Anyways, see you guys next week. Yeah. Bye bye.